All right, and here we are. I am back with a brand new deck that I've been wanting to build for quite some time, calling it Apostle Blitz, wielding Sek'Kuar Deathkeeper as the commander. And as you can see over here in this column, that will be slowly descending. You can see a long stack of Shadowborn Apostles. It's because this is a Shadowborn Apostle deck, not a demon tutoring deck per se, but a deck that really just wants to abuse Sek'Kuar's ability to sacrifice these guys to make a bunch of 3/1 Graveborns. But there is a fun little trick in this deck, fun little trick card, and we're going to go on down here to it. Probably a card you've never heard of before. This card is Bloodbond March. It's a green-black enchantment. Whenever a creature spell is played, each player returns all cards with the same name as that spell from their graveyard to play. So we get a fun little interaction here between having a ton of Shadowborn Apostles and this one little enchantment. And it's quite easy to get online. Once we have our Shadowborn Apostles, we sacrifice them and we grab our Runescarred Demon, and our Runescarred Demon fetches up our Bloodbond March. The other options are if we already have our Bloodbond March in hand, then we can use Runescar Demon to fetch up something like another Shadowborn Apostle or something like a Harvester of Souls to go ahead and keep us drawing cards, or even something like a Realm Walker naming humans so that we can cast Shadowborn Apostles from the top of our library, because this is a very good way to just extend your hand without necessarily having to have a bunch of cards in it. Some of the other beneficial things we get in this deck is we have a nice little life draining package. So you can see here we have Blood Artist and Zolport Cutthroat. We also have Judy the Scourge Diva and Mayhem Devil and Ayara, First of Lochwain, to make sure that our opponent's life totals will stay nice and low and under pressure for when we want to swing out with our army of 3/1 hasty creatures, the Graveborns that our commander Sek'Kuar makes. This is a deck you really want to play slowly. It is a blitz deck, so you want to make sure that you can get your aggressive start and just have that finish the game either on the turn you activate it or the very next turn. Bloodbond March is going to be very vulnerable to removal. We have a couple things in here that will help protect it. First of all, we have Eternal Witness to get it back from our graveyard to our hand, and we have Palace Siege to go ahead and get back Eternal Witness. But aside from protecting that, we don't have many other options. We have Veil of Summer right here to keep our enchantment protected. We don't necessarily care about our creatures dying. Most of the creatures that we're going to be playing are Shadowborn Apostles. Some of the other cards we have in the deck, because it is kind of tricky once we have those 6 Shadowborn Apostles and we sacrifice them for our Runescar Demon into our Bloodbond March, we need to get another Apostle into hand. And while you think, well, we'll have 30 more that we can draw, that is true, but it does start to get a little rough when you're just looking for that next Apostle to get back your 6, because they're going to kill your Sek'Kuar or they're going to kill your Bloodbond March in the process. So we have cards like Demonic Tutor, Secret Salvage, along with other cards like Spoils of the Vault. We can cast Spoils of the Vault and name Shadowborn Apostle and flip relatively few cards and then hit an apostle and put it right into our hand. But I think the best card for tutoring is definitely the Secret Salvage. Exile a non-land card from our graveyard. We search our library for any number of cards with the same name as that card. Reveal them, put them into our hand. This is a quick way. We exile one Shadowborn Apostle from our graveyard, and we get the rest of them from our library right into our hand. It is absolutely insane. It does cost 5 mana, so that is a little steep, and we are playing relatively few lands because the curve is so low. We're playing 31 lands here. So it can be a little rough mana-wise. For a while, I was playing Squandered Resources to give me a bit of a boost in my mana generation in Blitz theme, because Squandered Resources certainly does fit a Blitz theme, sacrificing your lands to give you additional mana. But I felt that that was a little too glass cannon, so I pulled that out. And instead here for mana generation, we have our Jeweled Lotus to get Sek'Kuar out early and quickly. We have Mox Amber, because we do have quite a few legendary creatures in this deck. We have Ayara, we have Judy the Scourge Diva, Tabrax, Hope's Demise, and I believe we have one other legend in here. Yes, there he is, Villas, Broker of Blood. So we have a few legends to get our Mox Amber going. Arcane Signet, 2 tap, add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity is perfect. And we have Phyrexian Altar, which is great because we can then sacrifice our Shadowborn Apostles that we get back that exceed the number 6 to generate mana to either play more Shadowborn Apostles, to get more 3/1s, and it's a self-perpetuating cycle. Our card draw engine is pretty straightforward. We have Grim Haruspex to draw us cards. We have Tabrax, Hope's Demise to draw us cards. We also have, right down here, I mentioned him before, I believe, we have our Harvester of Souls and Villas of Broker of Blood to draw us cards. But I do think some of the best card draw effects here might be Realm Walker and the Augur of Autumn, because they don't necessarily put cards into our hand, but they let us play creatures from the top of our library, which with a relatively low land count, just the fact that we're playing 54 creatures in total is a huge deal, makes these 2 cards very, very good. And Tabrax, I included him because he's a fun little demon that we can tutor up. He can get lifelink. He draws us cards. He's quite utility. I do wish I had a way to give him haste, but I don't see a necessity to give 1 card haste when the majority of my army is already going to have it. It's just simply granted from my commander. As you can see, the 3/1 Black-Red Graveborns already have haste. And they do get a little bit of a pump from Judy, so they can be 4/1s. And like I said, hopefully keeping our opponent's life total down really low with the use of Blood Artist, Zulaport Cutthroat, with Judy, with Mayhem Devil. We won't really have too many issues, but... and where did he go? Tabrax is absolutely wonderful. If we can get a bunch of counters on it to give it lifelink, it will draw us cards. It will keep our life total a bit higher. Blood Artist and Zulaport are such high target threats that they're probably not going to stick around. We might be able to get them back with a Palace Siege or with an Eternal Witness, but it's not likely that's going to happen. So... and we really want to be using our Palace Siege to get back Shadowborn Apostles. Speaking of which, Palace Siege, great enchantment here. We're always going to be picking the cons option. Getting a creature from our graveyard right back to our hand is exactly where we want it. And speaking of having tons of cards in hands, the Shadowborn Apostles with their one cute little black pip right there are perfect with the Defiler of Flesh. We can simply pay 2 life and cast a Shadowborn Apostle. So we can just go ahead and cast those guys for the simple payment of 2 life. But if we have IR out, it really drops that down. And then if we can activate them, have the mana to activate them either through Phyrexian Altar or perhaps treasure tokens from Pitiless Plunder, we would be absolutely just fine to make this work and make this just a really big turn where we're constantly sacrificing Shadowborn Apostles 6, 12, 18 Shadowborn Apostles to get all of those tokens so we can just flat out kill our opponents with some life drain and with some aggressive attacks. So we do have some other modes where we can change up our strategy a little bit. Aggro doesn't do so well if our opponents get on board and start to outnumber our attackers. For this, we have Archfiend of Depravity, forcing our opponents to sacrifice down to 2 creatures. We have Archfiend of Ifnir, which you might not think is very good, but is surprisingly effective if we are drawing a ton of cards with our Harvester of Souls or with our Taberax, and we fill up our hand with even 12 or 13 cards, and we're discarding 5 or 6 cards. This can almost wipe out our opponent's boards. The fact that it's a -1/-1 counter is a pretty big deal. It also doesn't hit any of our stuff. One of the other great options we have for alternate wins is Extractor Demon right here. We just go ahead and tutor him up, and even if he dies, we can unearth him. But whenever another creature leaves the battlefield, target player mills 2. So we can get him on the battlefield and really get a loop going where every time we sack our Shadowborn Apostles, we're sacrificing 6 creatures, but that's an opponent milling 12, 24, 36, 48. You can see how this really adds up. And it's a 5/5 flyer. These demons, they're pretty chunky boys in the air, which is, well, not Harvester of Souls, but they're pretty chunky boys in the air, so they're really good about keeping your opponent's aggressive flyers off of you, which is pretty nice. All in all, I have been doing some work on this deck. It is a work in progress. I previously had Dark Ritual and Mausoleum Secrets in the build before I put in, what was it? The Phyrexian Altar and the Eternal Witness. But the Eternal Witness and the Phyrexian Altar are just going to be so much more beneficial than the Mausoleum Secrets being a single time tutor and the Dark Ritual being a single time 3 black. The Phyrexian Altar is just going to pay off so much more. And we already have a lot of really good tutor effects coupled with our solid draw spells. We don't really need an additional one-time tutor. For our removal package, we have Nature's Claim, primarily for graveyard hate. We don't want to be running our main win cons, our Shadowborn Apostles. We don't want to be sacrificing them to a Line of the Void or to something like a Grafdigger's Cage or just any kind of graveyard hate that's going to neutralize us. So we have Nature's Claim for that. We also have Assassin's Trophy and Beast Within to get rid of pesky enchantments or artifacts that might hose our graveyard. And Veil of Summer for some counterspell protection. And blue and black is actually pretty useful. I just had someone feed the swarm on my Bloodbond March, which was really surprising. They were playing a red-black deck. I did not expect enchantment removal from them, but they had it, and I was pretty stuck. So Veil of Summer can be pretty useful here. Keep it from getting countered, keep it from being targeted. And yeah, the land package is pretty straightforward. We have our we have our 3 fetches. I only like running the appropriate color fetches and shocks in these kind of decks. Cabal Coffers is an iffy land. It can probably come out because I am playing so many. I'm not playing that many swamps, and the curve is so low. Just having a land that doesn't tap for any mana right off the bat is pretty rough. And I could always use more swamps for Lake of the Dead, which is absolutely phenomenal. But of course, we do have Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth, to make all of our lands swamps. But this is the deck, and I must say I am pretty proud of it. I think this was a pretty decent breakdown. I will be doing more work on the deck, and as I make changes, I will do my best to keep you guys updated. So this is my Sek'Kuar Apostle Blitz commander deck. I've wanted to do this for quite some time, and I'm really glad that I can showcase it to you guys today. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you all have a great day.